Hello everybody and welcome back to the F1 My Team Career Mode with me, Dan, and the Radiant Racing team as we enter the final week of the Season 2 Championship with 4 races to go, beginning with Austin, USA, followed by Mexico, Brazil, and then finally the finale in Jeddah. So of course at the moment we are just off the back of the Russian Grand Prix where we ran the Ukrainian livery, but for some reason I decided to forget between finishing the Russian Grand Prix and starting this one to remove that livery and go back to the usual one. So if you are wondering why the car still looks like that, that's why. Anyway, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell as well so you know when all of these races are uploaded, because we'll be getting underway with Season 3 very soon at the end of this week. But on to the starting grid, it's Lewis Hamilton leading the pack away alongside Max Verstappen, followed by the other Red Bull of Sergio Perez and the first Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Then we have Daniel Ricciardo, he's alongside the second Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. And then they are followed by Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly, that troublesome twosome. And then rounding out the top 10, it is Esteban Ocon and Valtteri Bottas with a penalty. Further down the order, we have Sebastian Vettel alongside Yuki Tsunoda in 11th and 12th, followed by ourselves in 13th, it was a bad qualifying, and Lance Stroll. Then we have Lando Norris behind us with a penalty. He's alongside fellow Brit George Russell. Mick Schumacher and Antonio Giovinazzi line up alongside each other ahead of Nicholas Latifi and Nikita Mazepin. And then finally on the back row we have Christian Lundgaard and Zhou Guanyu with a penalty. Right, well here we go for the US Grand Prix. If I sound a little tired, it's because it is literally 10 to 1 in the morning right now. Only opportunity I've had to actually record this all evening as we get underway now, and we have a fairly mediocre start. We're challenging Valtteri Bottas, our championship rival, who is himself alongside Sebastian Vettel, run incredibly wide into turn 2 there, and nearly come under threat from Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll behind us, but we did manage to clear Vettel incredibly, and started to make some progress up the field at last. We're past 2 cars, which is not too bad, but unfortunately our championship rival Bottas is sitting in 10th with 1 point to his name at the moment, but both of us are stuck down here near the back of the field. Love to see if we can try and leave him behind a bit later by the end of the race. There's our teammate Zhou Guanyu challenging one of the Alfa Romeos in the background. Looks like Giovinazzi. As I said in the intro, running the Ukrainian livery simply because I forgot to change it. Talking of liveries, we do actually have a new one coming for Season 3, so don't forget to stay tuned for that. I think the first race of that will be coming out on Friday in Bahrain as we see our race start there. See, not many options available to us, so we take a dive down the inside. Bottas, of course, challenged by Vettel on the outside, means he was starting to duck and weave across the circuit. And then we run wide. Somehow, I guess Vettel being trapped on the inside had stopped him from shooting past us and getting in the way. This was our teammate literally from last. Let's see what he did. For some reason swerves into the pack like a maniac, but then on the brakes gets up of several positions, and up ahead of him Mick Schumacher and Antonio Giovinazzi battling away into turn 1. There's Norris as well, not far ahead of him, but yeah, there we go. Three positions for him at the start. Very nicely done. He's actually up 5 positions now as he's got ahead of Mick Schumacher. But we're rejoining ourselves, coming down towards the DRS straight. Of course, we will get DRS this time, so will Valtteri Bottas, though, unfortunately, because he is just half a second behind Esteban Ocon right now. And unfortunately, it looks like there's a very long DRS train right past Fernando Alonso. So we've got Alonso in 8th, and then Gasly, Sainz, I guess he's just dropped out of it, Ricciardo, Leclerc and Perez all in a train. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton running off on their own at the moment. But you see Bottas going around the outside of Esteban Ocon. It's presenting some opportunities whilst also causing a very large roadblock for us. And you can already see that one move from Valtteri Bottas has somehow managed to take out 2 seconds to Fernando Alonso. So if we can clear these two cars, we're going to have some major issues later on in the Grand Prix, trying to catch him. As we go down the inside now, it's a massive dive bomb and a lock-up on Valtteri Bottas, but we have got the position, and that is crucial in our championship challenge. Esteban Ocon, next up the road, has no DRS and is nowhere near the back of his teammate to get a slipstream either, so he's going to be a sitting duck just a few corners time. But we're going to have a look at the replay first into turn 1. Just braver on the brakes there. Had the Alpine not been there, we'd have carried the speed a little bit further through, but we had to hit the brakes, stamp our feet a little bit just to try and get the stopping power before hitting the back of him. This was our teammate doing something in this very twisty section in sector 3. And well, he tapped the back of the Williams of Russell there, and then just decided to pull over and retire the car. So, despite the fact he made up 5 positions in 3 laps, he's out of the Grand Prix, which is not good to see. Anyway, we're in the points now, and Alpine's Esteban Ocon tries to defend to the inside, and now he's going to try go around the outside of us, but we were too much on the ball today. This was weeks ago for me. I've just watched the Monaco Grand Prix earlier this afternoon, or nearly all of it due to the weather, but yeah, Esteban Ocon proved a challenge there.
Box.
We decided we're going to come in at the end of lap 5, which I think is a little early on the circuit, but it might help us try and catch up to Alonso, who is now 4 seconds down the road, and also put some distance between us and Ocon and Bottas. It's debatable whether or not the this undercut is going to work, trying to catch up to Alonso, considering that most of the time you would only do that if you, say, had a safety car very early on in the race, or an issue on lap 1 had to come in. Sometimes it's a good idea just to throw the dice and run with a stop on lap 1. It does leave you very vulnerable near the end of the race with very warm tyres, but on this occasion, we'll see what we can do. With about 8 laps to go. 9 laps to go. We're going to try and catch the 2 Haas's. We've got Christian Lundgaard, Mr. Saturday for the Haas team, who for some reason just cannot beat Nikita Mazepin in a race. At least it appears that way anyway. He out-qualifies him at every single circuit, but I don't think I've ever come across a situation where Christian Lundgaard is ahead of Mazepin. Although, having just done a race in Azerbaijan today for Season 3, I can understand why, because Mazepin is incredibly aggressive on this game, and it's amazing that he doesn't smash his car up more often. But we clear Christian Lundgaard there. Start moosing our way around Sector 3, trying to get round Mazepin, who for some reason decides to drive off the circuit, even though I was nowhere near his back tyre in Formula 1 terms. But there you go. Come round to the final corner now. We'll see if anyone has actually come in yet, or whether we really threw the dice as we go massively wide. And I can't stop yawning. I'm incredibly tired. I wish I could have recorded this a lot sooner, but we've got some pit stops going on right now as we see hurtling round final corner. There's Alonso actually ahead of us, so he has come in, as is Gasly. Unfortunately, it's really hard to keep track of where I am because of all these names flying up and down the leaderboard. Okay, so it did work. We are within 3 seconds now. Just under 2 seconds behind Alonso. Sebastian Vettel up at the front leading ahead of Verstappen, which means that once he comes in, will be P8. But we rejoin our progress. We have caught Alonso, who has had a little bit of a tricky time trying to get past Pierre Gasly. And unfortunately, as you can see in the distance, Valtteri Bottas closing in as well, also scoring points here, which is not what we need. But it is what it is. There's still 3 more races to go after this one in this championship to settle who will become the next world champion. Or maybe Lewis Hamilton will defend his title and become a 9 times world champion. We'll just have to see what happens as we go flying through Sector 1 into the American Maggots and Beckett's around this enormous chicane, an American-sized chicane, up the hill and then straight back down again towards the DRS straight. Now, off the top of my head, I don't believe the AlphaTauri is incredibly fast, and to be honest, I feel as though Alonso is also there just purely on the fact that Norris and Hamilton are way back down the field, as is Joe. He had a terrible race for reliability. If we go down the inside now of Fernando Alonso, who twerks to the right-hand side after we go past him, for some reason, it has cost him time and the position. Daniel Ricciardo ahead of us as well, off the circuit. Must have had a spin into that section of the track. Let's go on board with Alonso. We should see a bright blue and yellow car go flying past. Maybe some contact there with his front left tyre. They get a small piece away from us. And oh yeah, there's Ricciardo on the left-hand side, just confirming the fact that I'm not imagining things this late into the evening. As we rejoin with 1.5 laps to go, I take it, with Pierre Gasly 1.5 seconds up the road, and Fernando Alonso sniffing the back of our gearbox like a pervert right now, followed by Valtteri Bottas, who is doing much the same thing to the Alpine, which is vastly disturbing, but I'll just have to take it. It's too late to argue otherwise, as we go incredibly defensive there. Fernando Alonso giving us a huge amount of grief here. Reliability on this car still incredibly bad, meaning that now that we're reaching the final 4 races of the season, we're starting to struggle for parts that are actually usable, literally at the point of having to use specific worn parts for practice and then switching them out for better ones in qualifying in the race, just so I've got something left at the end of this season. We go incredibly wide there. One of the things that we haven't really touched upon is the car development. After a few races into Season 3, you will start to see some of that behind-the-scenes stuff as I start including it in the videos from Portugal. But at the moment, I'll just have to go off on my head of where we were at this point. We've got regulation changes coming up for the end of Season 2 into Season 3 for the reliability and for the chassis. And I think by this point we're still working on covering those parts. Reliability, of course, we don't have that many pieces, but chassis, we are one of the leading cars at the moment, so we have quite a lot of investment to do there. And I forgot where I was going with this point, but we are, I think at this point, maybe the 3rd best car out there on circuit. Unfortunately, though, Zhou Guanyu's reliability is shockingly bad, as is ours, given that we haven't really done any upgrades at all in the reliability department. As Alonso now looks at the inside, he's not helping matters here by doing that, but we are on the final lap. He's allowed Daniel Ricciardo to catch back up, as now Bottas tries to reclaim an extra little point or two by going around the outside of Fernando Alonso, but it's not going to happen today as we come into the triple right-hander, I guess, and into the left-hander now coming down towards the final corner, and it will be P6 for us with 3 races left of Season 2 after this one. I may fall asleep before this commentary is over. We have got the podium to try and get through, and then I have to try and read out these results. We get driver of the day, which for some reason is yellow in the background. Not sure why, because none of the team colours were changed. I only updated the livery just for 2 races. Originally only supposed to be 1. But Max Verstappen, another win now. That's 2 in a row for him. Red Bull will be very happy with that because they are closing in on Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship. And remember, Lewis Hamilton was way down the order outside of the points. Valtteri Bottas only picked up 2 points based on where he finished. And that's a Red Bull 1-2 as well. That's going to be a painful pill for Mercedes to swallow as we get onto the Constructors' Championship results in just a few seconds' time. Or maybe just over a minute, as we just watched Sergio Perez get blinded by Max Verstappen when he fired the champagne. Anyway, let's get over to the race results. And here we are with the race results. Of course, we know our top 3 already. We actually had Charles Leclerc on the podium, picking up P3. They were followed by Carlos Sainz, AlphaTauri, ourselves, Fernando Alonso, Valtteri Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo, and Esteban Ocon rounds out the top 10. Fastest lap goes to Lewis Hamilton down in P13. So over in the Drivers' Championship, we have closed the gap to Bottas to just 1 point now, and extended the gap to Hamilton to 8. 9 points from him to Bottas. Could have done with some extra points after that result for Hamilton. Anyway, further down the order, we have Sergio Perez, then Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris, Pierre Gasly, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz round out the top 10. Further down again, we have Esteban Ocon just ahead of Zhou Guanyu, who is tied with Yuki Tsunoda. Then 1 point behind is Fernando Alonso, who's 1 point ahead of Sebastian Vettel. The last point scorer, Lance Stroll, sits ahead of George Russell, Mick Schumacher, Antonio Giovinazzi, Nicola Latifi, Nikita Mazepin and Christian Lundgaard. And finally in the Constructors, Red Bull are now just 56 points behind leaders Mercedes. Then it's a quick jump back to McLaren in 3rd place, who are very comfortably ahead of Radiant Racing in 4th. Then we have Ferrari, AlphaTauri, Alpine, Aston Martin, and then Williams, Alfa Romeo and Haas. That's all for today. We'll catch you in the next one.